Phil Phails. Whoa, Phil Phails. Welcome to Phil Phails. My name is Phillip Jones, and today my guest is David Garrison. He is a playful, authentic connector, and he's the Central Texas Mankind Project iGroup coordinator. Welcome to the show, David. You want to wave at everybody? They're in all these cameras.
All the cameras. Great to be here, Phillip.
Yeah, thanks. Today, Phil fails at men's work. And David Garrison is a real skilled and experienced man in this area. You've been a part of different organizations or groups of men designed to bring about men's work and men's groups. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely been a big interest of mine, especially like the last 20 years or so. Yep.
And you're a part right now of two different men's groups. Can you name them?
Yes. Excuse me. Yeah, so there's two formal organizations, and then there's a couple of other groups that are informal, right? They're not actually a solid organization, you know. But the two big ones are Mankind Project,
Yep.
which is a worldwide organization, and it's got a presence in, I think it's like 27, 28 countries.
Yeah.
So it's like a worldwide thing, and it's been around about 30 years. We can talk more about that. And then there's something called the East Bay Circle of Men, EBCOM, that's out in the East Bay, kind of centered in Oakland, but there are men all over the Bay Area that are a part of it, including a few men like myself who I live, 1,500 miles from there.
Yeah.
And I've been a part of that for about 8 years.
Okay. And full disclosure, I am a Mankind Project initiated man. Were you at my initiation weekend?
I was not only at your initiation, but I was in a more intimate part of that.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
But I actually remember being there and holding space.
Yeah. Land of my grandfather.
Land of my grandfathers, yes.
Yeah. Wonderful experience. The Mankind Project New Warrior Training Adventure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sort of the entry portal into the Mankind Project.
Yeah.
It's like a 2.5-day immersive experience.
And I'm not a part, how do I say this? I'm not in any formal Mankind Project men's groups now, but I sit with two different groups of Mankind Project men's weekly. One is one other Mankind Project man. He and I have a one-on-one, a dyad. And then another one is two other Mankind Project, and we sit together once a week, both of those. So I'm kind of drawing upon my experience, and I think regularly I've thought about getting to an iGroup or finding a more formal connection or entry point back into MKP. Mankind Project is abbreviated MKP for a lot of folks. So if David says MKP,
that's right.
He means Mankind Project.
Yeah. I just want to say, for people listening, let's see. Yeah, I think there is this thing when we talk about men's work, one of the fundamental manifestations of that is learning tools that allow us to come together in a circle and support each other.
Yeah.
And those circles, like the tool set is endless. There are some fundamental principles, though, that I've experienced in almost all of these circles. And the size of them can range from a group of 15, 20 men to 2 men sitting in a cafe and creating a space where the vulnerability and the ability to support is present.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is you've created two different groups of men for your support. One of them is 2 men and one of them is 3 men.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Some people call them containers.
Yes, that's another,
Yeah.
yes. That's a jargon that we use,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And before we get into the questions, we're going to ask Phil Phails 5 questions on men's work. I want to invite in some historic context around our relationship
Okay.
that you and I we've had adventures together
Mhm.
at Pace Bend where there was kind of an extreme event where you were helicoptered to a hospital to get your neck repaired when we jumped from the highest cliff and your neck was damaged.
Yes.
And we've sat in
And
circles.
and you were one of my friends who rescued me,
Yeah.
and where I had this profound experience of feeling loved
Mm-hmm.
by men so profoundly. It was just so amazing.
Yeah,
So yeah.
we flotellaed you for probably a half a mile. I think every time I describe it, the miles it gets
It was a
longer.
long way.
In 5 years, it'll be like we flotellaed him for 10 miles. But I think it was probably maybe somewhere between like
A
a
third
quarter
of a
mile.
mile.
Yeah,
Third of a mile.
let's just
Yes.
call it a third of a
Yes.
mile
Yes.
to a
But there
place
were
where
waves and sharks everywhere.
there weren't actually sharks.
No, no,
on,
no,
you know.
no.
And we've gone camping together, and we've spent time together both in circle in men's groups,
Yes.
the group that met on Monday mornings, which was the group that kind of led me towards my initiation, and then also in informal groups of a community of men that we both love and appreciate. And the ghost is that we've had a lot of tension in our relationship.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of like rupture and disconnect and like this isn't exactly what it is, but like I don't like you either type of vibes.
Yeah. Could I?
Absolutely.
Yeah. One frame that I have using men's jargon here, men's work jargon,
Mm-hmm.
is that uh, there's something about us and the history that we bring to the present that there's something there that where we in some ways trigger each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like for me, it's like there's a part of me that is like really open and loving and trusting, and then there's another part that gets a little bit the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and a big part of the work is to bring that out into the sunlight to where we can learn from that and continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I just want to name that I know I've been growing a ton, and there's been a number of relationships where there's been fissures and stuff that have been healed, and now I'm closer than I've ever been. And here we are, due to your reaching out and reconnecting and opening up this possibility. And now it's like the part of me that's loving towards you is just feeling really present,
Yeah.
and the part of me that's triggered is feeling a lot safer and sort of like it's so I just want to lay that out that this is what's happening here is we're creating a little men's circle
Yeah.
and getting to continue to grow.
Heck yeah. Part of the thing that when I reached out to you, I was looking for help finding another mankind project or another men's
Enough.
work leader.
Yes.
And the person that you suggested it just didn't work out for some reason, and you
Yeah.
said, well, what about me?
No, there were two other men.
Yeah, and neither
Two
of
other
them worked
men,
out.
and neither of them worked out. Yeah.
And you said, well, what about me? I've done all this work, and you listed all the work, and I said, man, you are a perfect person. And I thought, we've had so much challenge and strife. I was worried about it. And then I thought, well, what a beautiful thing to allow to unfold. I mean, why not put whatever this is on display? It could be exciting if we do get triggered and feel frustration. Like all these people can watch this intimate, real kind of thing unfold. And not that I plan for it to unfold. It just always has between you and I.
Right.
I mean, yelling at you and like leaving circles at the night and just so in me there's a vulnerability in saying, okay, if those types of things arise, How will I navigate that now? How will we model for other folks, men having challenge? Because I think in the past I haven't handled it well. Um,
Wow.
and
Philip, I'm feeling really touched by your vulnerability and sharing this with whoever's going to see this.
yeah,
I really, really appreciate that, and feeling very happy being here with you.
yeah. All right. So with all that said, y'all look out for
They're like, who are these guys? What are they doing?
what are they doing? What are we doing? Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
right now we're gonna do Phil Fails 5 questions.
All right.
Question one is how would a man fail at men's work?
How would a man fail at men's work?
Mm,
Wow. Hmm. So the initial response is, and yeah, I think there's a distinction for me between healthy men's communities and unhealthy. The unhealthy is more of the hierarchical sort of power dynamic where there's someone at the top who's setting the principles and rules, and basically expecting everyone to follow that. Where there are right and wrong, and where there's success and failure, like where those are very predominant values. And then there's healthy men's communities where it's like whenever you're ready, whatever you're ready for, we have a container where you can come in and do the work that you choose to do,
mm-hmm.
right?
When I say fail,
Yeah.
you can kind of think of learn. What are the pitfalls towards men's work success? Like, what are the?
Hmm.
I could think of a couple myself, but I'm wondering what ones come to mind for you.
What are the big challenges?
That'd be a good
Yeah,
frame.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say the frame of if you have a man who wants to make some changes in their life,
Mm-hmm.
things aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
Some things aren't
Which is
working.
probably every man.
It's true, but let's say you're getting to the point of like, I can no longer do this on my own.
Okay.
Okay, to me, that's like a crossroads
Okay.
for most people, and I'm going to speak about men,
Yeah.
where men in our culture, most men, a lot of men are taught to be independent, self-reliant, and figure it out, right?
Yeah. So what do you think
And not
when
be vulnerable to ask for support.
so men coming into a men's work kind of scenario, what are your things that would be failures or challenges for them?
Yes, yeah. So they're looking for change or looking for support. Let's say they go on this weekend or they go visit a men's support group.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The things that I've seen really get in the way are um, mm, men carrying a lot of shame
Shame.
around who they are, like not feeling like they are good enough. And so every time there's an opportunity presented to do something new or strive to do something better, the shame steps in and says, you're not worthy. Give up.
Mm.
Go back into your hole. I judge there's a lot of men that are living in that space of not having enough validation as they're growing up, not enough encouragement, not enough role models. Yeah.
So
So
shame is a
shame is a
big one.
big one. Shame's a real big one. There's there's let's call it limiting beliefs. So this is cultural programming. It could come from your family, in terms of this is how a man should be. So you must do this on your own. You never show your feelings. You never ask for help.
Mm.
Those are all signs of weakness.
Mm.
Don't be that way, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then you can get into all kinds of things, you know, around men's sexuality. You know, what are their like that. The big thing for me that I look at in terms of people, men being able to really fully embrace change in their lives, change in themselves, is being able to see who they are authentically and use that as their guidepost to where to go next and what to nourish in themselves, right? And a lot of the cultural programming basically tells you who you are. And if you're not able to set that aside and actually do the work of asking yourself, what do I really want? You know, what is it? What are my gifts? What are my true gifts? What are the ways that I could impact the world uniquely? You know, asking those kind of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of men, including this one, aren't able to even ask that question. We'll talk more about this later, but it wasn't until I was 40 years old that I could actually ask the question, what do I desire?
Yeah. So
It
it
was,
sounds
yeah,
like shame, these like ideas of not being good
programming.
enough or not being
Yes,
worthy, and that limited their participation or
yes,
limited their ability to kind of step up and contribute or take part in the things that the group was doing. The second is self-limiting beliefs and cultural programming, things
yes,
that ideas of what they should be or what they need to do, and these impacted the way they showed up in the world.
yes,
And
yes.
something around connection to an inner, like,
Knowing who
authentic
I am,
wisdom or
knowing who I
intuition.
am. Yes. Yeah. And so there's conscious limiting beliefs, and then there's subconscious beliefs that we have. There are subconscious things we learned as children that often that's what's driving the bus,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And like being able to go in that world of uncovering the wall between our conscious and subconscious and really seeing these old patterns that we've developed as children
Yeah.
to protect ourselves, to relate to people in our lives, and how we've carried those forward into the present.
Yeah. I'm reminded of a quote by Carl Jung. I think he said, I'm going to paraphrase here. He
Mhm.
said something like, until the subconscious is made conscious, it will rule our lives and we will call it fate. Something like that.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
quote. And yeah, MKP, one of the foundational principles is about uncovering our past wounds, our past programming,
Mm-hmm.
and using that as not only a stepping stone to growth, but actually access to um, amazing source of energy
Yeah.
that we can use.
Yeah. Second question, how would a man succeed at men's work?
What are the things that really support men? Yeah, so one thing I want to say, this is a journey that is really hard to do on your own. It's really hard to do. I know there are men that can go out in the desert and grow and be a totally different person, but I really do believe that having a support system that can give us feedback,
Mm-hmm.
what they're seeing that we can't see, that can provide a safe space for us to go into our feelings
Mm-hmm.
and be vulnerable and actually allow ourselves in front of other people to show our vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
and still feel accepted. That is such a huge thing for most men
Mm-hmm.
to actually show up weak, show up where our, you know, where we don't know what to do, where we're afraid, where we're blocked, and let all that out, and then have these men just hold us in that, whether it's emotionally or it's with hugs and with just a feeling of safety,
Yeah.
Such a huge, huge thing. So a safe place for us to do our work.
So
That's
success
critical.
is finding a group of people, a group of men
It
that,
can be one other man, as we've
yeah,
talked about, but a way where we can create a safe container and then some processes where we open ourselves up and feel seen and accepted.
yeah, there's that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go in a group.
Ooh, I love that.
So what I'm hearing you say about succeeding is finding your group, whether it's one, whether it's 1,000, finding a group of people that can support you in your lengthy journey
Yes.
towards um, authenticity, vulnerability, this transparency, this way of showing up in the world, warts and
Yes.
all your blemishes, and to be held.
Yes.
Yeah, think of
Yes.
like a sangha.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And then there's another thing that comes up for me. When I talk about exposing ourselves, the parts of us that we judge are not strong and good, right? So we all, as we develop as children, as we grow up, there are parts of us that get nourished, encouraged, and we feel good about those parts of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other parts of ourselves that often are discouraged or judged,
Mm.
and we tend to hide those things, uh, not just from other people, but also from ourselves. Yeah, and so that's a part of what I'm talking about, is like having a container where I can actually develop the parts of myself that are undeveloped, that have been lying in shadow, where they've been judged and held back. Here's a safe place for me to show those parts and actually practice new ways of being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In MKP, there is this framework that we use. It's called the 4 archetypes.
Yeah.
Do you want me to mention that right now?
Let's talk about
Or
that
is that
after we
later?
get to the, yeah, but we
Okay.
can talk about the king, the warrior, the king, magician, warrior, lover.
That's right.
What order are they in?
Lover, warrior, magician, king.
Lover, warrior, magician, king.
That's right.
We'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah. And just to keep it on this issue, so for me, I've always been a lover. Like you can see this in me, right? Like I'm fairly expressive and I have access to my feelings. I've always been this way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm unusual for most men, right? In that way. And people have tried to shame me around that, but it's always been who I am.
Mm.
And the other part of me that's been strong is being a warrior. My parents, my culture taught me, when your boss says go do this, I'll go do it. When my academic professor says do this and you'll get an A, hell yeah. I can do that. But the king and the magician, totally undeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing a lot of work on that about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Third question. What is the impact of this work on men and the communities that they're in? What is the fruit of watering this tree, of the tree of men's work? What's the fruit for a man and for the community that he's in?
Yeah, good question. So let's just say most of this work is around learning tools to create a safe container so we can support each other. That's really the fundamental part of this work. Okay, whether it's 2 men or 20 men or 100 men, creating a safe container where we can show up our authentic selves, warts and all, and feel seen and accepted,
Mm-hmm.
and providing a space for us to practice bringing everything out into the world and practice developing all parts of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the work, right? And so if you take that and you put it out into the world, what are the impacts?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like every context. It's like, I want to be a better father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of being the just showing my warrior, like I'm going to earn money and I'm going to be a provider. That's what a man does. That's what a father does. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of men are taught that. This work allows us to develop our emotional intelligence and actually teach our children that it's not only okay, but it's like a must, right? It's a totally safe to share our feelings with each other
Yeah.
and be there no matter what our feelings are, right? And to develop a new generation that can show up, that are not only smart and hardworking, but they're also emotionally intelligent, which is like this superpower for people in the world to connect, build teams, support each other, right?
Yeah.
So that shows up like as a father, as a parent, as a partner. You bring all these other skills that you're developing into those relationships. You show up in work as a much more integrated person who can be a leader, like bring their king into spaces, practice how to be actually like a real leader who isn't about ordering people, but it's about creating teams and inspiring them to move forward together, right? Like this whole paradigm shift in terms of what it means to be a man. So it's families, husbands, partners, work, community, where else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say this.
Political
I
leaders.
think the through line for me maps to Daniel Goleman's work in social and emotional learning, social and emotional intelligence.
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
That's probably the biggest part of this, is it actually transforms, like it opens up the world of emotional intelligence to men
yeah,
and everything that comes from that. Yeah.
because women in the male female kind of binary there,
Yeah.
women get way more. I'm just going to throw this out there. I think I've read this in different books. Women get more learning and more development in the social realms through their life,
It's
and
true.
men get more development and education in the action
The
doing
doing,
thing.
yes.
Dig a trench, or but we don't get as much education in the share your emotions openly and nurture community and keep your network, all of that. And
That's right.
these men's work sounds like at least one aspect of it is helping men develop their social and emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I did sort of point at that. Like for me, I was raised to just do what others were pointing me at, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was discouraged from naming my own desires.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that I want to bring to the world?
Which is your
I
magician.
was actually shamed when I said, I want to go do this. No, no, you need to follow the herd, sort of.
Yeah.
And so I carried that with me. And this work unlocked the possibility for me being my own king.
Yeah.
And since then, I've brought some things into the world that I could never have imagined doing. And the feedback I've gotten has been really great. Like people have really seen and valued a lot of things that I've done.
Heck yeah.
That would not have been possible without this support.
Yeah. Fourth question, why do you do this?
Hmm.
Why have you done 20 plus years of men's work?
It's to continue developing myself. Like this journey is never over. It's like an onion I keep unwrapping to further shine light on the ways that I limit myself and get the support to continue growing and sharing my gifts more fully.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my personal thing. And then the other, actually, a part of what I love to give to the world is supporting others on their journey. So that's actually something I just love doing. And so being a part of this community fills both of those needs.
Yeah. Do you have your mission memorized from
My
MKP?
I could say a mission statement. It's not exactly memorized.
Yeah,
So
what
it's kind of
is
like a little like it's not,
Yeah, would you share your mission statement?
Sure, sure, sure. So I do want to say up front that this is just one mission, right? There are
Yeah.
others too. But the one that's really big for me is I create, okay, as a man among men,
Mm-hmm.
I I create a world that is safe for all people to be their authentic selves.
Yeah.
And I do this by being authentic myself, by being catalytic, taking action that actually makes change, and by being courageous, because this involves stepping through tons of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I create a safe world for people to be themselves by being authentic, catalytic, and courageous.
Yeah. Fifth question.
I love these questions.
Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
Fifth question is, what has been your big watersheds? I imagine in your men's work there have been breakthroughs
Mm.
or events that were transformative.
For me?
Yeah, for you personally, what
Mm.
have been transformative? When I think of men's work, when I think of my own work,
Mm-hmm.
I think of transformative experiences.
Right.
Like the initiation
Yeah, yeah,
in the MKP was a transformative experience.
yeah.
When we did the Sweat Lodge in Wimberley, that was a transformative experience. When, there have been some psychedelic experiences I've had that were transformative, whether it's the ketamine assisted psychotherapy um, or others.
Yeah. So immediately pops up, boy, do you have like 3 or 4 hours here? It's like there's a lot here, but and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about my own personal journey in a little
Hmm.
bit. So I think I just going to name kind of uh, I'm going to name three very briefly experiences I've had,
Hmm.
just to sort of give you a glimpse of the things that are possible in this world. Okay. So on my men's weekend with MKP, I got to experience I got to experience being reborn. And when I say the experience, I mean um, no clothing in a group of men. And this is a man who's always had a lot of body shame.
Mm.
So I was invited to choose to face, to show that, to go step through that shame and not have clothes on and actually go through a birth canal experience. It was physical into the arms of a loving, accepting father.
Mm.
Which I'm tingling saying this right now because that was so transformative, such a like actually realizing my actual experience and what I really needed
Yeah.
and recreating that experience for myself.
Yeah. Part of the MKP is psychodrama. And
Yes,
and this was
experiential learning, experiential processing. Yes,
and in a group of people, you were able to recreate a
yes,
birth scenario
that's right.
and have it
That's right.
happen in the best possible way.
So powerful, so powerful. Okay, number two.
Hmm.
Number two, after my second divorce, I went out to the East Bay And they have every year, they've got a 4-day retreat in the woods. And I went out there, and when we came back from the woods, I was at my brother's house up on a hill overlooking the Oakland Bay. It's like 10 o'clock at night. There's 15 men in this yard, and they did this. I was really traumatized by this divorce process. And they led me to energetically digging my own grave and having a burial memorial process for the old David. And then they led me to doing this rebirth, this like the new David, stepped out of the ground and celebrated this new David in front of all these men and in front of the world. It was like on top of this hill. Holy moly. Just thinking about it, the impact of that was just
another
incredible.
psychodrama type of ritual.
That's right.
Where you buried your old self, you buried the past.
That's right.
I think about people kind of burning
not just in
their
my
letters
mind,
or
not just in my mind. This was fully energetic.
physical, yeah.
It was integrated.
And in community.
And being seen in that,
Yeah.
and loved and
The
supported.
world sees this
not alone
death.
with my journal, but out like in the world.
Yeah. The world sees the death. They see the rebirth. You're now a man, a new man.
That's right. That's right.
That's number 2.
Number 2. And number 3, I'm a part of this community, and they have an initiation process. Initiation is kind of like figuring out where your wounds are and sharing that with everyone, figuring out what your goal is, sharing that with everyone, and going through some challenges to get to, again, kind of embrace this new you, right? In community. So every year we go into the Mendocino State Park and do these things together, including initiation. And boy, I don't see. So I got to, again, face my challenges around my body. And I got to climb this big hill, blindfolded, scary, like in the middle of the night, drums beating everywhere, fear coming up, walking up a hill, holding someone's hand, and at the top of it, taking off my blindfold, and I'm naked and being surrounded by a huge community of men holding space for me. And I got to claim who I am in that. Like, it's like I'm on another planet, and yet I'm at home. I can't tell you the impact of these kinds of experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds real powerful. Yeah.
I've got more too, but that's
those are 3 great ones. I think all men's work stuff isn't naked, everybody.
That's right.
Just these were.
No.
But not all the time.
No. In fact, where it's beneficial is for the men where that's a problem.
Where there's body shame.
Right.
Where they're not comfortable with their body. They think they
that's
can
right.
hide it. And
so we're not doing that just for it's not sexual.
Yeah, it's not a weird thing.
It's nothing like that. Yeah, you can project that on us, but that's not it at all.
That's not it at all.
It's about being fully accepting ourselves and each other. Yeah.
Man, and as we wrap up the 5 questions, one thing that came to mind was I said earlier we did a sweat lodge together, and as you were talking, I had a little shadow or a little ghost in the back going like, appropriation. Is this appropriation? I went, what are we calling it? Didn't we not call it Sweat Lodge? Because the Mankind Project was gifted, my understanding, this ritual from the Lakota Indians.
Yeah.
And they don't use it currently, right? Because of...
So let me speak to this real quick. Yeah. So back in the 90s, MKP was formed. The men that formed it had a desire to use some Native American rituals as part of all this work, and they worked with some Native Americans, Lakotas, I believe, and they adopted several processes as part of this work. The short of it is that in the last several years, there's been some pushback from people in the indigenous communities about uh, cultural appropriation. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the term. The short of it is that MKP has divested themselves of all of those rituals. Uh, I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of that
Yeah,
or none of that.
right.
But what's happened is that they've basically developed new processes that with the similar intentions.
Right.
And I've been on a couple of trainings, and it's like as good or better than before. So
And I thought that whatever we're calling it, it wasn't sweat lodge. What did we call it?
sweat lodges,
We
yeah,
did.
yeah,
It was a powerful, transformative
yeah.
experience, and I'm grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And my participation in it wasn't in any way, you know, the intention wasn't to take something from another culture.
Mm. Yeah, so my judgment, MKP has always used these practices for positive
Right.
intentions.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Phil Phails 5 questions. We did it.
Fantastic.